Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's the start of a new week, and yeah, it had to happen eventually. I had to do the Eldrazi, didn't I? And I'm doing Ulalek Fused Atrocity, hybrid, white, blue, black, green, red, or colourless. So colourless or white, colourless or blue, colourless or black, etc, etc, etc. Legendary Eldrazi, 2/5, devoid, so it's colourless when it comes into play, even though it's got all 5 mana colours in it, so it is colourless. And whenever you cast an Eldrazi spell, you may pay 2 colourless, well, 2 colourless mana, if you prefer. If you do, copy all spells you control, then copy all other activated and triggered abilities you control. You may choose new targets for the copies. Yeah, okay then. So, if you cast an Eldrazi spell and you get triggered abilities, if you can pay the extra 2 colourless mana, you get to trigger everything again, and you get another copy of the spell you're casting. Yeah, this is pretty good. I'm very aware that Ulalek was one of the face cards of the Eldrazi deck, but again, I've taken it and built my own version of it. So here we go. This is what today's deck looks like. So, starting at the beginning, we have 35 creatures in the deck, and they are all Eldrazi. So, Blister Pod's the first one, so we get the Eldrazi Spawn when it dies, 1 green to cast. Eldrazi Mimic, whenever another colourless creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may change Eldrazi Mimic's base power and toughness to that creature's power and toughness at the end of turn, so could get big, could get smaller. Forerunner of Slaughter, pay 1, it's black and red, pay 1, give any colourless creature haste until the end of turn, so that helps. It that heralds the end whenever you cast a spell. Colourless spells you cast with mana cost 7 or greater cost 1 less to cast, so that's quite nice. And then other colourless creatures you control get +1/+1. Azalek the Swelling Scourge is also in the deck. Obviously, it's the other commander from the command deck from MH3 for the Eldrazi. Dies, or another creature, colourless creature you control dies, you get experience counter. It doesn't really do much. But Wooburg, creatures you control get +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of experience counters you have. And Sinions and Spawns you control gain Indestructible Annihilator 1 until the end of turn. So this does give you a way, if you can keep it around, of going big with all your Eldrazi Spawn tokens you're making and make them have Annihilators. So you soon wipe your opponent's board out if you keep it around. Catacomb Sifter comes in. Into battlefield you get the Sinian. Whenever another creature dies, you get to scry 1. Chittering Dispatcher comes in from the new set as well. Devoid Myriad. When it leaves the battlefield, create a 0/1 Eldrazi Spawn token. I'm not going to say what to do, but just so you know, Sinians and Spawns always sack for 1 colourless mana. You probably all know that anyway, but you know, just in case you're new and you haven't played Eldrazi before. The Line Breaker comes in, beginning of combat on your turn. Target creature you control gains haste and +X/+0 until the end of turn, where X is the number of Eldrazi you control. A little bit more complicated to cast with the colourless and a red. The Obligator comes in as well. You may pay 1 and a colourless when you cast it, and then if you do, you basically do the whole threaten effect. Herald of Kozilek means the colourless spells cost 1 less to cast again. So you know, if you get this and it's that heralds out, you know, your 7 drops go down to 5, so that's not too sad, but this has the effect of doing all the colourless creatures, so it's a little bit better. Matter Reshaper dies, reveal top card of your library. If it's permanent, put it into play if it's 3 or less, otherwise into your hand. Snapping Voidcrawd, another ramp card for the Eldrazi. You can tap it to add 2 colourless, or you can play 3 and a colourless to draw a card. Thief of Existence, casts this spell, exile up to 1 target non-creature, non-land permanent opponent controls a mana value 4 or less. Let's have this bit of removal basically, but when this dies the opponent gets to draw a card, so gives them something back, but it might get rid of something that's annoying you big time. Writhing Chrysalis comes into play with 2 of the Eldrazi Spawn tokens, and then whenever you sack another Eldrazi, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Writhing Chrysalis. And yeah, you're probably wondering why this is in here, but this card has been driving me mad in draft, so I figured it might as well come home in the Commander deck as well. Reality Smasher, going old school, trample and haste for 4 and a colourless, and then they have to, you know, basically it's got ward discard a card for all intents and purposes. Walker of the Wastes, trample, and he gets +1/+1 for each land you control named wastes, and we do have wastes in here. Angelic Aberration comes in from the new set as well, from the new Commander land. When it enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of creatures with base power or toughness 1 or less, and then create that many 4/4 colourless Eldrazi Angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance. So if you've got a whole load of spawns and not a lot to do with them when you cast this, you end up with an army of angels. Eldrazi angels, but they're still angels. Conduit of Ruin comes into play. Search the library for colourless creature cards 7 mana or more, and put it on top, and then the first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less. This should probably be in quite a few decks just for the cost reduction for the creature spells, especially if you're playing big green, but it doesn't really see much play outside of Eldrazi land. Deathless Behemoth, sacrifice 2 Sinians, return it from your graveyard to your hand, and activate this ability under the sorcery. 6 mana, 6/6 for vigilance. Yeah, we'll do that. Endbringer, untaps during each other player's turn. You tap it to ping something, pay a colourless and tap it. Target creature can't attack or block. Pay 2 colourless and draw a card. Yeah, okay. Oblivion Sower, old school, exile top 4 cards for someone's library when you play it. And then you may put any number of land cards from that player's library onto your battlefield under your control. Sire of Stagnation comes in as well. Whenever land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player exiles the top 2 cards of his or her library and you draw 2. Stops all the landfall decks quite happily. Yeah, Zuladog Void Gorger comes in from Commander Masters. Gives all our colourless creature spells we cast from our hand with a value 7 or more, cascade and then cascade again. So we get things out quickly. Getting towards the end now with all the big stuff. Birthing Hulk gives you a couple of Sinians and you can pay 1 on the colours to regenerate it. Deceiver Reform, at the beginning of your combat on your turn, reveal the top card of your library. Every creature card is revealed this way. Then creatures you control other than Deceiver Reform become copies of that card until the end of the turn. You may put that card on the bottom of your library. Drowner of Truth gives you an extra land, but it's also devoid, and when you cast it, if you spent colourless to cast it at any stage, you get a couple of Eldrazi Sportants. Drowned Lurker, sorry, hay fever's playing up today. Got the ability to cycle, but if you cast it, you get a cast it or cycle it, you get the spawn token. So you know, if you need an extra card, blue and 2 to cycle, gives you a card plus a spawn. Not bad. Null Drifter, the Eldrazi version of Mole Drifter, as we all know, slightly better. Cast this spell, you draw 2, has flying, Annihilator 1, but you can still evoke it for the same cost as Mole Drifter of blue and 2. Breaker of the Armies, I'm playing for a bit of fun, so I can get in for an attack, and everything that's able to block this has to. A Breaker of Creation also comes in from MH3. Whenever you cast this spell, you gain 1 life for each colourless permanent you control. Has hexproof from each colour, and Annihilator at 2. So it can be blocked, but it can't be targeted, so bear that in mind. Artisan of Kozilek enters the battlefield. When you cast it, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It has Annihilator 2. Desolation Twin for 10 mana gives you 20 power. I played Kozilek. I like the original Kozilek, so cast this, draw 4, got Annihilator 4, and it goes back into your graveyard. From when you put it in your graveyard from anywhere, including if you have to discard it, gets shuffles back in. When its owner shuffles his or her graveyard into his or her library, so you get to refresh your library all the time. Same with Ulalek, but this comes into play when you cast it, you get to destroy a permanent, has an Annihilator 4, is indestructible, so anyway they get rid of it, it's exiling it, and the same thing applies, you have to discard it, you get to shuffle your whole graveyard back in. It That Betrays is the last one of the Eldrazi in the deck, Annihilator 2. Whenever opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. So you do get to nick things, so it is quite fun. Just a couple of colourless planeswalkers. Ugin the Ineffable means all our colourless spells cost 2 less for another cost reduction. And then Ugin the Spirit Dragon as well. Shoot something for 3, exile everything that isn't a colour. That's not colourless basically for -X. And then if you do the -10, you gain 7, draw 7 and put up 7 permanent cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Very good value if you can get there. Unlikely to. You can do the +2 in the -X a lot of the time. Spells wise, not too many. Warping Whale, had to have the traditional Eldrazi instant in the deck. Jessica's Will, just so we can get some mana and get some cards. Abstruse Apparition is one of the new cards from MH3. Exile target non-land permanent, and then you can get to cast it. Okay, and spend colourless mana as though it were mana of any colour to cast that spell. Wrath of God gives a bit of ball control along with Blasphemous Act. Gruesome Slaughter lets all our Eldrazi go, this creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature. It's nice if you can get it off and you need to clear the board away. It's not a bad one to have. All this does means everyone sacrifices everything that's coloured apart from you, because you're not paying really anything that is coloured because everything is devoid. And Skittering Invasion, 7 mana, 5 spawn tokens, and yeah, that's really all it does. But it's a tribal sorcery, so not bad. A fair bit of ramp in the deck. This is where the price of the deck is shot up. So we have got Mana Crypt, we have got Mana Vault in the deck. We need them because they do produce the colourless. Ignore what Mana Vault says here, add 3. It does actually produce 3 colourless mana now. It has been errated since this version was put onto Goldfish. Soul Rings here, Arcane Signets here, because, you know, might as well have some coloured mana if we need it. Idol of the False Gods lets us do one of the colours to create a spawn token, and then whenever an Eldrazi you control dies, put a +1/+1 on the Idol of False Gods, and when it has 8 or more on it, it's a 0/0 creature in addition to its other types, and it has Annihilator 2. So it becomes an 8/8 eventually for, yeah, okay. Thematic compasses here, so we can search out some basics. If I've got it right, wastes that are coming up count as basics, I think. If not, this card is a wasted slot, and you might as well get rid of it out of your deck right away and replace it with something else. But I seem to remember they did say wastes were basic, but I may be wrong. Herald's Horn, just name Eldrazi so you can cut the cost down even more. Same with the Incubator. Warhorn gives all our creatures +1 as they're attacking. Can be helpful, especially if you've got all the Eldrazi Sinians kicking around. And Forsaken Monument gives all our colourless creatures +2/+2. Whenever we tap a land or anything for colourless, we get an extra colourless, and whenever we cast a colourless spell, we gain a couple of life. Enchantment wise, the only non-devoid card in the deck is Awakening Zone, because every upkeep we get an Eldrazi spawn token. Kozilek's Unsealing, we cast a creature spell with mana value 4, 5 or 6, we get 2 0/1 Eldrazi spawn tokens, and whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or more, we draw 3 cards. Pretty good from my point of view. Nearly as good as, well, probably as good as From Beyond. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a 1/1 colourless Sinian into play, and then 1 and a green, sacrifice it from Beyond, search your library for an Eldrazi card, reveal it and put it in your hand. This is going to sit here and hopefully build up our Sinians for us, so if we need to sack it off, we can sack it off. Path of Annihilation is also in the deck. Comes into play with 2 Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. Means all our Eldrazi can tap for 1 mana of any colour, and whenever we cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or more, we gain 4 life. Gives you a way of stopping you to sacrifice your Sinians and your spawns, so I do like this card. I think it's lovely from MH3. The final enchantment, Echoes of Eternity. If a triggered ability of a colourless spell you control or another colourless permanent you control triggers, you get an additional trigger, so basically new Panharmonicon. And whenever you cast a colourless spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy. Difficult to cast at 3 mana +3 colourless, but in this deck it's very much at home. I am playing a lot of lands you won't have seen me play before, mainly because I'm playing all the dual pain lands from what they were called, because even though it says on here it's 1 mana, it's actually 1 colourless now, so they're all that way inclined. Same with the Cauldron Lakes that come in as well, then to battlefield tap, they do the same thing. Obviously there's Deceptive Landscape in here. We do have 1 of each basic in the deck, so we can use the landscape to go and get them if we really need to if push comes to shove. Haven of the Spirit Dragon is also in, mainly because it does another colours thing, and it gives a way of returning 1 of our Planeswalkers if they get killed off. Beyond that, Reliquary Towers here, Sanctum of Ugins here. Whenever you cast a 7 colour spell with mana value 7 or more, you may sacrifice the Sanctum. If you do, search your library for a colourless creature card and put it in your hand. Shrine of Forsaken Gods gives us 2 mana to cast colourless spells when we've got 7 or more lands in play. Temple of the False God does 2 mana if we've got 5 or more lands in play. Tomb of the Spirit Dragon, you get a life, you pay 1, you tap it, you can get a colourless, and it is colourless. Ignore all the ones on here, they have all been edited on MTGO to show the colourless symbol now. And you gain 1 life for each colourless creature you control for 2 mana and a tap. Because we are doing this, we've got the Mine, the Power Plant, and the Tower. It's a bit weird it's picked up the original one for here, but yeah, as you can see here, these have been edited to include it as colourless mana properly. And then just to make sure, The wastes do say basic land waste, so we should be able to go and get them. So yeah, we've got 8 of them in the deck to round it all off. And that's it. That's my take on Ulalek, the Fused Atrocity. It's not the most cheap deck online. I think it's about $60 online, about 600 quid in real life. But you know, I think it's worth playing online. We are seeing this; it is appearing a little bit more in the Commander games when I'm streaming the games. So I figured I will bite the bullet, hit it up, and do it myself. But that's it for now. I'll be back tomorrow with a quick potential starting point deck for the new Assassin's Creed set, and then I did a poll on the YouTube channel last week. The 2 cards that won that will be coming out Wednesday and Thursday. So for now, thanks for watching, take care, come back tomorrow for the next video. See you soon, bye.